Hello, everybody, and welcome. This is season 2, episode 3 of It's Not a Meisner podcast. I think we should begin with the elephant in the room. All of you listening have noticed my haircut. I know most of you listen for my long hair, and you might be upset that I cut it.
They listen for it.
They listen for my long hair, and now that it's short, they might stop listening. So I don't know what to say about it. I'm going away for 6 weeks, so I got my hair cut off, so I don't have to get a haircut for 6 weeks. And
This
and
episode, we're just going to talk about the evolution
Yeah.
of Kevin's.
well, yeah, it turns out I'm very handsome. A lot of people don't know this. I have to tell them.
Well, it's because they're listening.
Yes, they listen to me, and I don't sound so handsome. And then when they see, if they watch it on YouTube, they go, "Oh my God, he sounds ugly." But now that I see him, he really is ugly. Anyway, you don't have to be handsome when you're an acting teacher or a director. You only have to be handsome if you're an actor. So I have that going for me. That's why I'm a good teacher. I don't have very good looks. All right. So that's some intro, huh, Carson? I'm sure everyone now knows, as everyone's ready to listen to what the hell we're going to talk about, because that was some intro. We are going to talk today about actually a very, very important aspect of Meisner's technique, and that is what we call emotional preparation. In our last episode, we read a quote from Konstantin Stanislavski about emotion and its place in acting. And the only time we give a shit about emotion is if you have to make an entrance, if you have to come on stage alive with the experience that your character had just before coming in. And when I say if, I mean when. There's never a time on stage when you enter with nothing. You're always coming from somewhere that something happened, right? So we will talk about that when we come back from our intro. It should not be acting training. It should be actor training.
Am I a good actor?
Like me doing. It's not a Meisner podcast.
There it is.
Did everyone enjoy the intro? I know I did. So, emotional prep. You can't really, in our work, right? In the Meisner work and in how you and I think about acting, you can't really talk about emotional prep without talking about the imagination. And we'll talk about that, about why the imagination. The short answer is because we don't use the events of our real life in our technique.
Right.
So to talk about imagination is to say that, well, this was an important, I can't remember where I read it. It might have been in a book by UNESCO or something. I think it was Eugene Ionesco, who said everything that exists was first imagined. And I thought, oh, fuck, what a great way to look at it. Yeah. I mean, aren't there drawings from Da Vinci or something like of a submarine or whatever, or a flying machine? Like people imagined flying.
Yeah.
Back when that was the sole, gift of birds. So people would look up at birds and go like, huh. And so you would imagine flying. And then, of course, we invented, quote unquote, invented flight. But, there people imagined going underwater and, I guess it's like everything that isn't us, fish and birds and, stuff that we don't do naturally, we imagine that we can do it.
Right.
So the imagination is important because things that do exist were imagined first. So then we as actors might as well give ourselves permission to imagine
Yeah.
beyond our regular, ordinary, mundane, pedestrian lives. What if,
Yeah.
right? Einstein, who's considered, one of the smartest people ever, is quoted as saying, imagination is more important than knowledge, right? That comes from Albert Einstein. So to imply that knowledge is important, what is knowledge? It's just a bunch of facts,
Yeah.
you know? And, knowledge is, well, you know something. Well, okay. It's important to know something. That's good. But Einstein said if you want your kids to be smart, read them fairy tales.
Yeah.
Like he was saying, the way to learn is not by memorizing facts, it's by having a flexible imagination.
Because that's how you discover new things that could possibly become facts, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So it doesn't help the artist to know a bunch of facts.
No.
It's important to the actor to do research because they are stepping into an imaginary world, and they do have to sometimes play a character who lives fully in a type of world that they have mastery over. Like, say you play a doctor or a nurse or actually, really, when you think about it, any profession.
Yeah.
You got to look like you know how to change, how to fix an engine of a car if you're playing a mechanic. So you do a little bit of. I like to do that sometimes if I watch a movie or a television show. I always like to watch the actor go, shit, that dude looks like they know,
Yeah.
that they know the world
Yeah.
that they're living in. It looks like it's second nature to them, you know. Um, so um, so we focus on the imagination in terms of, well, how are we going to find our way into this imaginary world? Well, you can know a bunch of facts there, and by the way, there's nothing wrong with it. There are some techniques that'll ask the actor to write a whole biography of their character, and I go, that's fine. It doesn't hurt to know where your character came from and how they grew up, and their family and their religion and things that do affect you. But you don't bring your biography. You don't stand on stage and go, "Ladies and gentlemen, let me read to you everything about my character and where they came from." That biography only matters in how it may translate into behavior.
Right.
That's all we care about. So okay, so fine with details of factual details about your character, including events in their life that happen to them, right?
And world events.
And world events, yeah. Oh man, you and I should do a whole. We shouldn't we do a whole episode on the world of the play? We'll get there.
Yeah.
But absolutely, where does your character live in the history of the world?
Yeah.
But the use of the imagination is, I don't know that we necessarily need all of that. Sometimes we could just daydream it or just imagine it. Stanislavski, only half kidding, called it the magic if. It's kind of fun. Was he being a little funny? I'm not sure. He's like, magic, it's magic. But it kind of is.
Mm.
Why is it the magic if? It's magical because it really, you can enter the realm of any world with the word if, or two words, what if?
Mm.
Right. So for us, emotional prep comes from analogy, in a sense, right? We talked in our last episode about this meaning to the character is equal to this meaning to me, right? We'll unpack that a little bit more today. But this is important. Emotional prep is only done off stage. It's before you come in, before you make your quote unquote entrance. Right? I think that's important because young actors confuse it.
Mm-hmm.
They'll talk about their emotional prep and then they'll say to me about something that comes up on page 2. And I'm like, no, your Meisner would say your emotional prep, your prep only brings you to the door. Sometimes it's a real door, like And maybe your character makes an entrance through the actual door. Or sometimes the curtain comes up and you're already there.
Right.
Right. And sometimes you walk in and there's no literal door. What does he mean? Your prep only brings you to what we call your moment of first contact. So you're coming in alive with experience, and then all bets are off because you're alive with the meaning of the thing that happened in the imaginary world, the circumstance, the thing that happened to your character, and you come in alive with it. But the second you make contact with the world of the play, and it could be your partner, quite often it is, but it could be, a piece of furniture, whatever. It could be a steak. Maybe it could be food. You sit down to a steak, In other words, you come in alive with something, but once you're in contact with something else, and sensually, right through the five senses, that begins to work on you and move you and change you and alter you, right? So, so this is really important. We always say that you never self-generate in acting. But when we say you never self-generate, we mean on stage or on set in the world of if you're making a film, when they call action, you don't self-generate. Everything you do is true for and of your partner. You are alive because of the presence of that other person. They're the ones pulling your behavior, your experience and behavior out of you, right? However, emotional prep is self-generated.
Mm-hmm.
It is. You do it. You go off into a corner somewhere, let's say, and however you need to do it, and you go internal. You daydream. You find something in yourself that brings you to life. It causes you to come to life. And once you're alive with that experience, you come in. So was that self-generated? Yeah, but it wasn't on stage. It happened off stage. Now, this notion of prep, emotional prep, it's gone on forever. Stanislavski has his version of it. We're talking about Meisner's version of it, which we'll take apart. But there's this Barbara Marchant told me the story of, I think it's William Macready, the actor Macready. He's an American actor in the 1800s. And he used to have to make an entrance where he was really alive with anger or something. There was a ladder backstage in the theater, and the ladder was like planted into the ground, like one of those like fire escape kind of ladders straight up. And it was immovable, right? But he would shake the ladder backstage as if he could pull it out of its moorings, Well, of course he couldn't. It was in there solid. But the more he shook, the more frustrated he would get. Like he would let himself get like this fucking ladder. He would let himself get all mad at the ladder. Then he would hear his cue and he would come on alive with, God damn it. Because he was shaking a ladder backstage. But shaking a ladder is not at all connected to whatever the circumstance was of the play he was in. I can't remember the play. But it didn't matter. Once he was alive with that experience, he came in and attached it
right
to the world of, like, if you come in pissed off, and if I come in pissed off and the first person I see is Carson, it's going to get attached to him.
Right.
And whatever Carson does, I'm like, Carson, God damn it. What,
yeah.
Bringing it.
Which isn't a foreign concept because we do it in life all the time, right?
Oh my God. Somebody steps on your foot.
Yeah.
And you go, watch it, asshole. You go, what? I didn't. You're clearly alive with experience that happened previously.
Right.
You bring it in with you, But what I want to say about this is, yes, you bring it in with you, but you don't hold on to it. Right. In our last episode, we talked about that emotion is a tricky thing, and you shouldn't desire it. You shouldn't be like, I hope to be, or I wish to be, or I want to be, fill in the blank emotion today. You can't desire it. In fact, was it you and who was I having this conversation with about the concept of the greased pig? That wasn't you.
I don't think so.
I don't think it was. I can tell from your face. You're like, what the F are you puffing? I was talking to somebody about the elusiveness of emotion because they just kept wanting to be emotional. And I said to them, back in the day in certain parts of this country, you would go to the fair, the county fair, and it was a sport to grease up a pig, to take a pig and grease it up and let it go in a pen. And you would run after it and try to catch it. But you try to catch a greased pig, it's just going to squirt away.
Yeah, yeah.
That's what emotion is like. You try to catch it squirts away. Or not only does it squirt away, it runs away because you're trying to catch it.
Yeah.
So when you chase emotion and you try to get it under your thumb, it'll spurt away. It gets further away from you because you're attacking it or approaching it or going after it, right?
Yeah.
So emotional prep. Sometimes it's direct and sometimes it's an analogy. I've had students say to me, they'll write to me and they're in a play and they go, I feel like I'm cheating. I'm barely doing any prep. I just keep coming to life. And I'm like, and the problem is, I'm like, no, it just needs you relate to the circumstance. It's close to home. And so good. Don't get in the way.
Well, and that's a common phenomenon, I think, for actors with more experience and with more training and, well, maybe not even training, just more life experience. Because Matt Damon even said that. Like, I think he said, when he did The Rainmaker when he was 25 or however old he was, he went and tended. He went to Kentucky and like tended bar or whatever. But now he's like, I wouldn't need to do that because I can just relate to an experience without needing to actually do it.
Yeah. You find the analogy.
Right.
And you go, why am I comfortable? Well, to back to what we were saying before. But yes, I agree with what you're saying that it takes the actor, the mature actor, to accept that that's okay.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Whereas the young actor is like, no, I got to go and do all this homework. I'm not saying no to doing all that stuff. I'm saying you may also just find an analogy and daydream it. You find your way in. But what happens is when you're the actor who picks up didn't Tom Pelfrey say this? I heard him say it in an interview about Task. He's currently in Task. And he said that Kaylee read it first. And she said to him, did the guy write this for you? Meaning Kaylee was like, as she read it, she's like, I hear Tom's voice doing it. I can see Tom, so Tom just is in that world as he relates to it. I'm sure he did a ton of crafting to find his way more specifically. But sometimes there's parts where you go, man, 80% of the job is done or even more because I relate to it. So much for emotional prep, right? You just have to sort of leave yourself alone and you'll find your way in.
Yeah.
But sometimes you're playing a part and you go, no, I have to go find it. Right. And so then instead of the direct daydream, meaning I'm daydreaming directly on the actual circumstance that's in the play, I have to find an analogy. Now, for young actors out there, this is what happens sometimes. You have to allow yourself to find the essence of the meaning, not the actual thing. So you have to get good. We talked about this in the last episode, distillation. You ask yourself, what essentially is my partner living through here, right? So Bill used to say to us, he might have gotten it from Meisner, but he would say to us, listen, in our technique, if you're playing somebody whose mother died, you don't need for your mother to have died. You only need a mother. And then you say, what if she died, right? Then Bill would say, I'll go a step further. You really only have to understand loss.
Yeah.
Because, and this is where it gets a little brutal, the actor has to talk to themselves, talk to yourself like an actor, which means no apologies, no explaining, no justifying. Find the gut and the primal of it, and you never have to tell anybody. So you're playing somebody whose mother died, and the character's devastated that their mother died. You may say, I have a mother, but the character in the play is devastated that their mother died. But if my mother died, I would be like, I don't give a shit. She abandoned me when I was 3. I haven't seen her since. I would have feel nothing if she died. Wow. And polite society would be like, don't say that about your mother. Like, fuck you. It's me. I'm doing my work.
Right.
And I'm telling you, if I daydream on my mother, like the character's mother died, nothing would happen. Or worse, you might even be like, good.
Mm.
I'm glad that bitch died. I have zero fucking sympathy. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, and that could happen in life even.
Yeah.
Somebody could come and find you in life and say, hey, you've been estranged from your father for 10 years, but he's dying of cancer now. Do you want to come back and see him? No, I'm not going to come and see him just because he's dying. And again, polite society goes, oh, how inhumane. No, that's how I feel. And I don't apologize for it. I'm not going by the civilized notion of how you should act in a society,
Right.
So when Bill would say, listen, you have to find the essence. You go, well, the character's devastated that their mother died, right? So you go, well, so then I need to have my mother have died in order to experience that, right? That's nuts. That's like going, oh man, I'm playing that murderer. I got to go out and murder someone, and then I'll saw a rehearsal.
Right.
That's crazy. But you say to yourself, well, what is the character feeling? Loss. Well, what would loss be for me? And I promise you, you could say, I'm playing this character whose mother died, and my daydream is, what if my dog ran away?
Mm.
I'd be devastated if something happened to my dog, or if I didn't know where my dog was, or if my dog got hit by a car or whatever. I'm devastated over the loss of my dog, the way this character is over the loss of their mother.
Yep.
Right? Now, here's where young actors get confused. They go, oh, so I daydream on the loss of my dog? But then when I come in, I hold on to the loss of the dog? No, because that's not the circumstance of the play. You let go of the dog daydream. Now you're just alive with loss.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what happens in the interim? You make contact with the sensual world. And my teacher Maggie used to say, it just takes.
Right.
So if I come in alive with the loss of my dog, and then I come in and there's Carson, and let's say he's playing my son or something, it's going to take that the feeling I have of loss will merge with Carson. So whatever comes to me too foreign of Carson, it gets pulled out of me.
Right.
Okay. It's a complex but really simple concept, right? But it's only complex because people can't believe it. They can't believe that they don't have to come in holding on to their emotions. They can't believe it. But this is how I think about it. You and I have talked about this. Back in the day, we might be back to this. But when I was a kid watching the space program in the 60s and 70s, when they were launching to the moon, it was a long rocket, with a tip. And we would just watch that thing take off, and the smoke and the fire, and then it was extraordinary. And it would take off. You'd be like, there goes that rocket. What I didn't understand when I was a kid was when that whole thing left our atmosphere, the rocket part would fall away, the big long part, and all that was left was the thing on top, which was the capsule.
Yeah.
I thought that thing on top was the whole thing was a rocket.
Right.
So what are we saying? The rocket was used to project the to send the capsule into the next atmosphere, right? Is that stratosphere? What are we talking? Is that?
You're asking the wrong guy.
I know. You and I keep talking about how actors have to be smart and know everything. We don't know shit.
No. We can't keep it ourselves.
But the point is, the capsule gets taken over by the atmosphere that isn't the atmosphere of Earth. So it doesn't need that rocket anymore. So once that rocket's done its job, it falls away.
Right.
And then the capsule continues because it's taken by another force, right? So I always think of emotional preface. It's the rocket part of it. It just got you there. But once you're there, you got to let it fall away. And now the capsule is the important thing, That's the part that has the three people sitting in it. That's the important part,
Yeah.
So if you can trust that your daydream or your preparation, once it takes, and by take, I mean you feel alive with experience, joy or anger or frustration or uh, sadness or whatever. Once you're alive with that central nervous system, alive with that, you got to let it go. And then you come to the door and it attaches,
Mm.
right? I think in the Meisner technique, the reason I love it so much is because it's pretty practical and sequential. Like you could really answer to almost all of it. There's one part of it that to me that's still a little bit elusive and sort of magical and can't be spoken to, and that's this.
Mm.
The actor's kind of on their own in terms of daydreaming. Like there are exercises that can help you to daydream, but the actor goes out of the room or they're off stage waiting for their cue. Whatever's going on in there, it's personal to them. It's theirs. And it kind of can't be spoken to, you
Well,
know?
and that kind of, this would be a whole other episode, but that starts to speak on artistry.
Absolutely.
You can't follow any steps or all the steps in the acting book and then act like,
Yeah. Yeah.
Meryl Streep.
And right. It comes down to you.
Yeah.
And, you and I have talked about talent. And do we want to define talent as that thing?
Right.
The actor's capacity or ability to enter the imaginary world and have a very full and varied emotional life, internal life, and easy access to it, right? But Viola Spolin said anybody can learn to be stage worthy, meaning you belong up there. You deserve to be up there. You take it seriously. You have a technique. You take yourself seriously in the work. You're stage worthy. But we hope we're not training actors to be stage worthy.
Right.
We hope they go on and to be kind of extraordinary or special or whatever. So I don't think we'll do this episode today on daydreaming. That might be a whole other episode.
Yeah.
But the notion is that we've said this before, and I want everyone listening to embrace this. The stuff that we got in trouble for when we were kids, that's our superpower now.
Mm.
So when we got in trouble for daydreaming, for getting lost in our math class, that is something that I actually encourage of my students. And I'm saying to them, you used to get in trouble for daydreaming when you didn't mean to. But in our art, in our work, you actually can identify a topic to daydream on.
Yeah.
And let it take you. What if my dog died? And you start to daydream, you will come to life. And you can practice it. You can give yourself things to daydream on at home, in your bedroom, alone, and then snap out of it and be like, whoa. You look at your hands are shaking or you're sweating, like that central nervous system stuff. You're blushing or you're sweating or your hands are shaking or and then, go eat lunch and come back and do a different one. Just alone in your room, go, oh, Barbara Marchant used to say to her actors in the class, she would tell them to leave the room. She'd say, go out and lose someone. You'd be like, what? Yeah, go out and kill off your best friend or something. Go out and lose someone. Oh, no. But it was always fun because you would do a tremendous exercise in class. And then, afterward, I always say to my students, okay, now go call that person. Tell them they're perfectly fine. You didn't ruin anyone's life because you daydreamed that something bad happened to someone you love, right? You used it for your artistry.
Yeah.
And then my students would always tell me, they'd be like, oh, it was so much fun. I called my friend yesterday and said, dude, I killed you in acting class.
Yeah. It speaks to exactly what you're talking about. I mean, but you also, I think as a kid, like I can remember, I used to hate being away from home. And so when I would stay the night at a friend's house, I would get super, super paranoid about being away from home. But then I don't really think of this as daydreaming, but it was a form of that, of like catastrophizing all the possibilities that could go wrong when I wasn't at home. And I don't really do that now, But I remember doing that as a kid. But I think it's because the imagination's just more rampant, right?
Oh my God.
You just
Right?
you just can't lose that.
No. When you're a kid, that's your job, isn't it?
Yeah.
Your job as a kid is to enter these crazy. I swear I had this thought just the other day. I don't know why it came up in my head. I don't know if this is universal. But when I was a kid, we didn't have so many gadgets as we do today.
Sure.
So you would leave your house and go knock on some kid's door. I swear this is what we would say. Play with you. Asking it was half a question and half an invitation. You're saying, do you want to play?
Right, right.
Like it was our job. Play with you. And the other guy would be like, okay, play with you. Then the job was to go and run around in a field and pretend you were some spies or something, play with them.
Yeah.
Like if I said that to anybody my age, they might be like, holy shit, that's what you did. You just knocked at someone's door. The kid came to the door and you said, play with you. And then you went and did your job as a kid, which is to daydream.
Yeah.
And enter a world,
Well, there's another, I had this great teacher, Jim Calder. He's the clown and games teacher at NYU graduate.
Yes.
And this is totally from him, but his whole thing is like read literature. I don't know if I've said that on this podcast, but he's like, read literature because it makes your imagination larger, right?
Oh,
because you're literally you're creating the image of what all these words are doing in your head. It's not a movie it's telling you what it is.
right.
And it's not a play where you're seeing it. It's truly here, and everybody will see it differently. So
that's a great. I don't think you've ever said that.
I think it's really important
on the podcast. No, that's amazing because when you read literature, you have the quote unquote movie in your head of what you're picking up off the page. It's not being fed to you.
Right.
You're creating it for yourself. And the person next to you could be reading the same book and they would be finding their own way in.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, why are we talking about imagination and daydreaming? Because in our work, it's never actual events from your life. We don't want that. So ours is not the technique that says sit in a chair and remember or recall this actual event from your life, whether it was a great fun and funny event or whether it was a devastating and tragic event. We don't want you to recall, for a number of reasons. One, it could be damaging emotionally and psychologically. It could be. I'm no therapist. I'm not your freaking therapist. I'm not here to be like, well, that was some traumatic event that happened in your life. But see you tomorrow. Like what? I'm not going to just leave you hanging. In fact, I'm making sure it isn't.
Right.
Sometimes I'll ask someone when they're over. I'm like, tell me about your crafting, and it better goddamn not have been some actual thing that happened to you.
Right.
But the other reason we don't do it is because it's a bit limiting, isn't it? Your actual life, it's kind of limiting.
Yeah.
And it's small and pedestrian, and whereas like, oh, you mean I could daydream something beyond what has actually ever happened to me, right? Now this is important though, all within reason. Like if you did an exercise and they said, what happened there? And you were like, well, the aliens got me and, I just came back from the mothership. I'd be like, come on now. Come on. How does the real world work? But here's the thing about this. We are never using our real life for the reasons I just said. However, there has to be at least one element that is true to your life, but it's not an event. It's not an event. It tends to be a person. My brother's getting married. Oh, holy shit. Everybody right away, you go, oh my God. I'm so happy for him. And I love his fiance. Oh, great. So of course I would say to the actor, the student, do you have a brother? Yes. Is he getting married? No. Right. Well, how would you feel if he did? Oh my God. Right.
Yeah.
So along those lines, right? Do you have a dog? Yeah. Did they run away? No. Oh, no, thank God, no. But what if they did? Oh my God, I'd be devastated.
Yeah.
Okay. So In our work, we find not only do we say no actual events, but we go, it's actually better not to, you know? It can internalize you and it can squeeze you down, shut, you know. I think I brought this up once on the podcast that Stanislavski, he had to develop this work, and the only way to develop it is with people, with actors. So here he is trying out exercises with actual humans. And they started to get, after 10 years, when he changed his mind about doing it that way, he said, I think I've created an entire generation of neurotic actors, which for Stanislavski is like, whoops. And then he's like, let's do it this way now. But those actors are like, you fucked this up, man.
Yeah. Well, because also you would hope that you heal. Like,
yes.
The thing that happened when you were 15, when you're 65, you would hope you wouldn't have that intense of an emotional reaction to it because you healed and gotten to the other side of it. And just the imagination's limitless also because you can change it every night if you need to.
No, that is true. First of all, that's so interesting about healing. Like you go, not only did I heal, but I'd like to stay that way.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, why would I revisit it?
Right.
And the other thing you just said about the imagination, it's amazing because you'll hear our actors say, I have to recraft that.
Yeah.
But how could you recraft it if it's your real life? But to say, no, I crafted something imaginary and then it kind of died on me after so many performances, I have to recraft it.
Yeah.
The other thing is what happens when you're in a romantic play and you have a boyfriend and you're daydreaming and using your boyfriend and everything's great in the play. And then your boyfriend breaks up with you. Well, you have to recraft because that person no longer means to you what they used to do.
Right.
Right. So you go, well, I've been daydreaming and using my boyfriend, but he broke up with me. Now he's an asshole. I don't feel the same way toward him. I just recraft.
Yeah.
I find something that brings me the experience that the character's living through, but I don't have that source in my life anymore. Right? It's an important word, isn't it? Source. It's always a source. It's something outside yourself that influences your internal life. Right?
Yeah. I mean, Kevin, this is a bit of a non sequitur. We don't have to go into it, but when you and I start dissecting a scene, we'll make a vision board.
That's right.
And a lot of that to me involves qualities or colors or sources that would influence the emotional life of the character, and some of it makes no parallel sense to whatever scene we're working on. You're like, why is this in here? But it's because there's something from that just works for me, right? Be it
for the actor.
Yeah.
It works for the actor. But I do that as a director. Not all directors do that. I used to only do it with designers. Like I would play a piece of music or a sound and I would say to the designers, this is the play. And they would love that. They'd be like, thank you. Got it.
Yeah.
Or I would say, this play feels like fog rolling in on the moors.
Yeah.
They're like, cool, got it. Thanks. But I never used to talk like that to actors, but I do now.
Yeah.
And Carson's right. Like he and I will do assignments where we just do a play. Like I think I told you all listening to the podcast that Carson and his friend, really, really good actor, Connor, they worked on Long Day's Journey Tonight just recently, and I had them do vision boards, and I asked them not just for the character that you're playing, but for the whole play. You might as well know the play you're in, so you could craft the character that serves that play.
Yeah,
and they would bring in colors, and I got to ask Connor. He came up with one of the greatest ones for Long Day's Journey. You'll be like, wait a minute, that's Long Day's Journey. I can't remember what it was. If I remember, we'll bring it up next time. But it made perfect sense. But nobody would ever go like, yeah, Long Day's Journey Tonight is that image there or that.
Yeah.
But it made total sense.
Yeah.
Anything that can keep the actor in that world of like, listen, what about this great story that you and I know? Stanislavski was teaching emotional recall, right? sense memory and emotional recall. Well, his star pupil at the time was Michael Chekhov. And Michael Chekhov got up and sat in the chair, and Stanislavski was like, "Well, talk me through your grandfather's funeral, you know." And Michael Chekhov started to talk about the funeral, and Stanislavski, doing his exercise, would ask him questions about it. Now, smell the flowers and see the colors and all. He tremendous detail Chekhov went into, and he just started bawling, just crying, you know, for the loss of his beloved grandfather, and recalling the funeral, you know. And when he was done, Stanislavski turned to the class and said, "Now that's how you do an emotional recall, you know." And like 2 or 3 days later, he finds out Michael Chekhov's grandfather is alive and well. And I don't know if this is true or not, but I love this. I read Stanislavski kicked him out of the. Then, of course, he brought him back later to run the second stage of the Moscow Art Theater.
Yeah.
Stanislavski himself started to recognize the value of the imagination for this stuff. But here's Michael Chekhov doing a whole thing about his grandfather's funeral. But does he have a grandfather? Yeah. Is he dead? No. And yet you could talk about his funeral as if, and if he died, how, what about it? Well, I would be, the smell of the flowers, it would make me cry, or whatever.
Yeah. Well, and I also think imagination, it speaks to that idea of I don't know the exact, it's like a common quote, but like fear is in the future, that kind of idea. Like you can't be worried about something in the present. You're only worried about things that happen in the future. And so
Yeah.
if it's imaginative and it hasn't happened, there's just so much more to feel and
Oh my God. Yeah.
that affect you.
Here's the other thing about it. The central nervous system doesn't know the difference between a daydream and an actual event.
Yeah.
That is really important to remember. Why do you need the real event? The central nervous system doesn't know the difference. And we've all experienced this, you know? The crude example I always give, right? You know, two people who are sexually attracted to, let's assume heterosexuality, a man and a woman, boy and a girl, are in the boy's bedroom because his parents are away, and they start going at it heavy, and they're kissing, and it goes further and further, and then, you know, pretty soon they're making love, right? Well, the next night, his parents are home, so he's in his room alone, and she's back in her house alone, and both of them start to daydream or have a fantasy. The same thing happens to their anatomy that happened the night before that allowed for the actual event to happen, right? When you daydream, I mean, I'm talking to the guys out there, we've all freaking popped boners when we didn't want to. You could pop a boner in gym class, you know? You're like, damn. Shit happens to your anatomy when you don't want it to, or just that's it because you're daydreaming. You're sitting at the bus stop. You're like, God damn it, you know. There's a version of it for women too, I'm sure, and all sexuality, you know, heterosexuality or gender, non-binary. Who gives a shit? You're a human. You have a central nervous system. You don't need the actual event for the starter. It's just the starter kit. But listen, you could go, yeah, but isn't it better to make love than to daydream about making love? Yeah, but we're not talking about either of those things. We're just talking about the experience that you have as a startup to it, because then it's going to attach to your play, right? We're not talking about actual making love versus daydreaming about it or any experience.
Right.
You know, did you actually kick the winning field goal or did you daydream about it? It doesn't matter. The only thing we care about is the experience that it gives you, and that experience you bring to the door.
Absolutely.
And that's all that matters. We're not putting a value on whether one is better than the other, the real thing or the imaginary thing. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Okay. So, so I guess the only other thing, well, let's say this about it. We will say this. You remember this example, right? Let's say you and I are in a play, and you know, or you know, it's an old fashioned play, you know, and you're playing the wife, and she's an old fashioned housewife who stays home and cooks dinner, you know, and then the husband comes home from work, and when I come in, you have the first line, and you say, "Oh my goodness, honey, what happened at work today? You're positively beaming," you know. Well, as an actor, I'm taking my clues and my cues from the writer. So I look at it and I go, well, fuck, I guess I got to be beaming
Yeah.
when I come in because my wife said I am. So then I go, well, what am I beaming on? Because my line to you is, honey, you're looking at the new vice president of the Cooperville National Bank. Like, I guess I'll go daydream on being the vice president of a bank. Are you crazy? I would never beam. I would be like, please shoot me. You know what I mean? I wouldn't beam about that. But then let's say, as a director, maybe I daydream on having won a Tony Award for directing,
Right.
Although I've said this too, if I ever win a Tony Award for directing, please shoot me. Because it means I'm directing on Broadway, which I never would want to do. Right? So I can't really use that. But let's say I'm a normal person and I'm a director and I give a shit about, what is supposedly the top of my craft. So let's say I do give a shit and I daydream on winning a Tony. Well, I daydream on it and I come to life with what? Triumph or, extreme joy or happiness. It brings me as an actor, I'm off stage, no one sees me, right up to the door. The second I open the door, I come in alive with joy and triumph. That rocket ship has fallen away already, so it's not about winning a Tony. I'm just alive with joy. The next thing that happens is I connect to you. And when you look at me and you brighten and you go, oh my goodness, honey, what happened today? You're beaming. I'm not working off getting that promotion. I'm sure as fuck not working off winning a Tony. I'm working off you.
Right.
My wife, who has great meaning to me, and you're all excited. So I'm working off your excitement. I go, oh shit, look how excited you are. It's making me more excited. You're looking at the vice president of a fucking bank over here, But what happens then? We go on with our dialogue.
Right.
So what comes out of my mouth is, honey, you're looking at the new vice president of the Cooperville National Bank. That's just what I'm communicating to you.
Right.
I don't go, honey, I won a Tony. You'd be like, what? What does that have to do with the play? I don't say that. And anyway, I didn't win a Tony. That's fallen away. I'm just alive with the joy of it. But what I do have is you.
Right.
My central environment. Because I could come in and you're not there. What do? I pop some champagne, right? The champagne's keeping me alive.
Yep.
Or I sit down and I write an email to somebody telling them, who would I want to know? Like sometimes my students will come in and I go, what happened? Because they're not very alive. And they go, oh, I auditioned. They got a great part. And I'm like, you don't seem very alive with it. Then I'll say to them, who's the first person you would tell? You'd be surprised how many of them. I mean, almost always. My mother. Right. Almost always. Isn't that amazing? My mother. And then you see them as they're telling me, they go, holy shit, imagine if I told my mom that I got that part. Then I'm like, go out and come back in, goddammit.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not about that it's not about you.
No.
It's not that you got the part. It's about the person who you would share that with and how they would respond to it. Then it's cyclical. Then that feeds back to you and you're alive and you throw it back at them.
Right.
Okay. Cool. Emotional crap. It's self-generated. That happens inside you as the actor, but you don't carry it on stage with you. It brings you to the moment of first contact. You are alive with something that happened before you got here. And then your partner influences how that thing in you continues or doesn't.
Yeah.
Right. And this is the last thing I'll say. You and I have talked about this, right? We see this all the time. People are at a wake. The body is right there laid out and people are really upset and crying and talking to each other. And one person says something like, oh my God, remember that time when so-and-so, the deceased, did that funny thing? Everybody instantly starts cracking up laughing.
Yeah.
We are that fluid and flexible in our, you just start laughing. You don't go, hey man, this is sad. We got to hold on to it.
Yeah.
We must be sad because our friend died. You really? You crack up laughing.
Right.
It happens all the time. right? And speaking of Carson's friend Connor, he once gave us this great example of he was out with a friend who has a baby, and the baby was crying at the table at the restaurant or the diner. And Connor picked up a set of keys and shook them at the baby, and the baby instantly started laughing. So a baby can go from deeply sad to instantly cracking up. You know why? Because you shook some keys at them. Wow. You know.
Yeah.
What's interesting though is when you see that kid laugh, there's always a little remnant of the crying they were doing.
Yeah.
They're not schizophrenic. You know, they don't just boom boom jump from one thing to another. It's segued, or it's kind of two sides of the same coin.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, anything else about emotional prep we should say, Carson, before we get out of here?
I just think that it's you can't. It's entirely up to you.
Yeah.
Do it, and you said that earlier, but I just think it's so important that I think from my experience of being a student, it's very much let me try to get this right. Let me do this right. The way it was taught, so that I'm learning the correct way. That's not what this is.
No.
So spare yourself the trouble of trying to do it right. Just do it.
Well, you might have to go through that in order to realize it.
Yeah. Sure.
Every young actor probably has to go through. You know, you and I have said this before. Everybody in the Western world, anyway, is a product of the school system that we went to in this country, and quite a bit of the school system in this country is here's how to do it right.
Right.
You know, memorize the facts and spit them back out on this piece of paper, and that's a test, and you get an A. You know.
Yeah.
Or behaviorally, right? This is how to behave and be correct. You know, there used to be, I don't know if they have these anymore. There used to be educational video, instructional films, you know. Like when I was a kid, there was no video. It literally was on a Super 8, where, you know, like the wheels would turn with the film in it, and it would make that noise. And you would sit there, and the guy would come on and be, "Let's be good citizens at school." You know, here's how not to be a pain in the ass.
Right.
To your teachers. Oh boy. And then you carry that out in the world. Yeah. And you go, "Oh, I hope I'm doing it right."
Yeah.
Then you go to try to be an actor, and it's like you just said, you go, "I got to do it right." Nah.
No.
You know,
it's not going to work.
So I think we'll also have an episode about implanted meanings, right? Because we started this by saying emotional prep only brings you to the door. Whereas I have a lot of students who prep for the moment that's coming up on page 5.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, man, you got to leave that alone. That's going to come up, and we call those implanted meanings. That meaning is going to come up in the course of the time that you have with your partner.
Yeah.
In the course of the scene you're doing. And that's a whole other thing. And if you remind me, Carson, we'll do an episode just on, you know, what about meanings that come up in the course of the play?
Absolutely.
All right. Nice.
There's episode 3 of season 2.
Absolutely. Well, see y'all next time.
Doodles. Make sure to follow us on Instagram @Meisner Podcast.